So Nitika, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, we'll start with the objectives of ACSS, why there is a need to establish something like this. So from all the responses that we gathered and from what our understanding was, we grouped all the objectives into 6 broad categories. So these are collaboration, discussion, upskilling, popularizing, representation, and resources, with various objectives under them, so that we can achieve these major goals one step at a time, and we can collectively work on these. Next slide. So what is the need for collaboration? Since we are working towards moving towards a transdisciplinary subject which involves ideas and perspectives from various kinds of disciplines, the most important part is to collaborate with one another and work together so that we can, you know, uh, expand the field further. Because what happens is usually each field keeps working in their own areas and they do not come together to discuss their ideas, so that cross discipline influences they can also be incorporated. So collaboration essentially makes for a very important goal that we need to achieve by working together with people from other disciplines. So this involves mutual assistance in data collection so that high quality data is generated, in convening and cooperating towards the expansion of the field, ensuring and promoting collaborative learning. We can learn a lot from each other's discipline, and in fact, a lot of work within the Coxsci discipline, it is being done through other departments also, such as computer science and neuroscience or psychology. So these are disciplines who are actively working towards contributing to the knowledge, and other disciplines also, such as anthropology, linguistics, education. So these are disciplines that are constantly working towards understanding cognitive science in their own way. So by collaborating and having discussions with people like this, with people from other disciplines, we can actually collate our knowledge together, our findings together, and try to gain one understanding of the subject matter. And it also includes organizing student chapters across institutes and aspirant hubs. We can bring the institutes who are offering courses in cognitive science or who are having such workshops or seminars, anything of the sort, that they can also be invited together on one common platform. Next slide. The second part, again, to collaborate, we need to have discussions. So as we can see, discussions are very important, because what these discussions do is we get to know the various trends and the latest technologies or techniques that are being developed in various other disciplines, or the ideas that are being generated through their work and research, so that it provides different kinds of perspectives to work on a particular solution, to find a particular solution, to work on a particular problem. So what this will do is it will create an idea exchange platform. It will also facilitate student-centered communication, topic-based discussions, and we can also have discussions through discussion forums, or we can keep competitions and have regular quizzes. So this can facilitate some sort of activity within the community, so that the process is kept ongoing and it is not very static or stagnant process. It does not become very stagnant, and new information can be updated time and again as we collaborate and discuss. Next slide. Neil, next slide. Okay. So the next thing that is very important is upskill. So what happens is usually the focus is a lot on theoretical part. Of course, the theoretical part is very important because it helps in advancing research. It helps in propagating more research, and it encourages more research endeavors into a field. But also it is important that we use this knowledge to actually create solutions that can solve real world problems as well. So that is something which is not usually included in the curriculum. How to these are usually a part of projects, how to operate on various kinds of techniques and tools that are available, or the kind of databases that we can work with, the libraries that we can use for executing particular kinds of solutions. So these are things that should be included in the curriculum, so that students get a hands-on experience of how exactly they should be working on this with the field. It's like when you learn something in theoretical, of course, having a strong theoretical basis is a good thing, but if we do not know how to implement it in the real world, or how to solve problems with it, or how to create solutions with it, then it is sort of incomplete, because we aren't able to use that knowledge to the capacity it can be utilized to. And also, when we try to go into the practical aspect of a particular thing or a particular theoretical concept, we also come to know about the real world problems or obstacles or difficulties that might be associated with implementing it, because not everything can be executed exactly as is in theory in practical. That is why it is important to get a hands-on experience with these kind of technologies. So this can be done by organizing workshops for research innovation, skill upgradation through state-of-the-art methodology, and inculcating industry requirements in the curriculum, and basically moving towards an industrialization of cognitive science, where we include these skills as a part of our regular curriculum. Next slide. Then next is popularizing. Now, why we need popularizing is basically whenever someone asks you the question that, okay, what are you studying? Cognitive science. What is cognitive science? Now, this is a question which not only plagues the student, it also plagues teachers and researchers, because what is cognitive science? How do we explain this? Because we are currently in the process of studying it, but to someone who is not very privy to the jargons of the field, how do you explain such kind of a field? So that is why there is a need for popularizing it, so that it can be included in the common vocabulary of people. And with anything, it takes some kind of time and some kind of exposure. You need to grant some kind of exposure and make it a relatable subject, so that people can, actually include it in their common vocabulary. I'll take an example from my own discipline, that with the advent of concepts like humanistic psychology or positive psychology, now these are concepts that people can actually work on in real life. And now, when we see from like 10 years back or 20 years back, psychology is very much a psychological terms, they are very much a part of our common lingo, as they were not before. So terms like, we have started discussions on topic like depression or anxiety, or although people do not really have the, what would I say, the correct theoretical knowledge behind it, but yes, there is a buzz around it, which is why people are more interested to read upon the subject or know more about it. So that is why there is a need to popularize the subject, because there is some sort of lack of awareness about the existence of a course like this. Because if we see how many people appeared for the COGJET exam, then there are like barely thousand people who appear for the examination as well. That means that not a lot of people know that this is also some path that they can pursue, and that it is something interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary subject that we can pursue. So increasing course awareness is a way to popularize it. Then also, if we are increasing awareness about the course, it is also important to increase resource accessibility from where people can learn more about this field. And these are usually things that are not readily available unless you put a specific search term for it. So unless there is a specific search term for it, you don't usually get the results. So what we can do is we can make some sort of a common database or a common library where people can access these resources and they can read up more on the field, so they know more what the field involves. And another way to increase the popularity of the courses through social media. Social media is a very powerful tool, because even big firms and companies, they also use social media as a method to, spread more awareness about their programs and policies and their own company and brands, etc. So we can also use social media platforms to propagate more information, to convey more information in a more layman term, so that people are more interested to read up on it. So that is something. Is the presentation not visible just to me? Or is it gone?
No, I think it's gone.
Okay. Mm, okay. Next slide. Oh, also, in when we talk about popularizing, it is very important, if we want to make it relatable to the people, it is important that we discuss some of the social issues that are there through a cognitive science lens. How to include something in our daily vocabulary, how do we involve something in our daily life, is when it is relatable to us. So if we discuss social issues through the lens of cognitive science, for example, there was this paper that I read recently. So it was on studying if there is some sort of similarity between obedience that is invoked through VR authority figure and the obedience that is invoked through the presence of an actual authority figure. So the results practically showed that it was not more than, but it was at least comparable. The VR invoked obedience was comparable to the obedience invoked by an actual authority figure. So these obedience till now was a very social psychology concept that was used to be studied in the domain of social psychology or social cognition and stuff like that. But now studying it through this lens, it can actually help people understand, oh, okay, there is one more perspective to actually study these kind of phenomenon, and it will take away some of that not a natural science or not a very hardcore science kind of stigma that is attached to such concepts, because it is seen as something which is very personal or something which is very subjective and varied. Of course it is subjective and varied, but there are also other perspectives to study it, and that is what cognitive science is offering, providing a transdisciplinary perspective. Another thing that is important is no, just go back to the previous slide. Yeah, representation is very important. Now representation is not only in terms of the disciplines that are being represented, it is also in terms of the cultures that we are looking at. So even in terms of disciplines, we see that many disciplines, they are underrepresented, such as anthropology is there, or education is there. These are disciplines which are not very much given a lot of representation when it comes to cognitive science. So this is something that we need to work on, because if we are trying to make a transdisciplinary field, then it is important that we incorporate ideas and perspectives from every kind of discipline that is there, and not just focus heavily on one discipline, on some disciplines, and just ignore the rest. We can't do that. So that is why representation of disciplines is very important. Also, what is important is, if we are to make a science that is, or if we are able to make a field that is more people centered, or it is more relatable to people, then it is important that we represent different kinds of cultures, because of course there are cultural variations with respect to every phenomenon. So we need to study these multicultural facets that are there to every phenomenon, for which we can do a listing of multicultural databases that are there, and not just uh, focused on one kind of nationality or one kind of ethnicity. So I think so. Once I was discussing the with Harshit, Neil, and Siddharth only, that there is this website called "This Person Does Not Exist," which uses I think so. What was GAN technique to generate a random face, and that takes different kinds of facial features from the data that it has, and it generates a random face of a person that does not exist. But what we found was that it is good at generating Caucasian faces, but yeah, it is good at generating Caucasian faces. But when it comes to generating faces of, let's say, Africans or Indians or Asians, then they are not very good. These models, they are not very good at generating, and it looks little bit of unreal, and it looks like, yes, it is made up, and it is something just put together randomly. So this is something that shows some kind of underrepresentation of, yeah, exactly. It is also generating background around faces. So this kind of shows the underrepresentation of cultural ethnicities that exist, and this is something that we need to work on. That if we are to make we are trying to expand a discipline, or we are trying to incorporate representation and stuff in it, then we need to make sure that everyone is given proper representation in order to make a holistic science. We can't have biases. We talk about reducing biases, and this is the biggest bias. If we are to make a machine, then it will have human biases, because we fail to incorporate a lot of things that we should be incorporating in a machine. So machines also are biased. They are not so scientific as we thought they are. So this is something that we need to work on, increasing representation, so we can move towards making a more people-centered discipline also, and making it more relatable. Then another way of doing this representation thing is to crowdsource ideas. A lot of time we can generate ideas from people that also by having some kind of active commentaries from them in order to generate understanding of what their idea of cognitive science is, what do they think about can be done in this field, what do they understand by the term cognitive science, and what ideas they think should be incorporated in cognitive science to make it more make it more relatable and make it more likable as a field to work in, make people encourage more people to join the discipline and work at a transdisciplinary level. Because if we are to move towards a more collectivized or globalized society, then we need to take everyone together and then move forward. We can't just move forward based on a few of people who decided that yes, this is how things should be done and then we should move forward. We need to take inputs from everyone. Next slide. Last but not the least, resource sharing center. Of course, when we talk about making resources accessible to people so that they can look up and know more about cognitive science, it involves sharing tools of trade such as code, softwares, data, etc. So these are things that should be that can be made available to people on a common platform. Of course, we are not going to provide the actual thing. We can just link people to different kinds of sources that they can refer to for knowing more about a particular topic. Then through sharing resources, what we can also do is we can have a cross checking and see if the resources that have been brought in by the other person, we can explore the veracity of the and genuinity of the sources, and we can ensure a good quality content creation that is easier to understand and comprehend. Then we can build a database of volunteering participants, and we can very importantly build an information system for exams and opportunities within the domain. Now, since the field is so less known, the opportunities that are available in this domain and the exams that are there, like CogJet is there, or even through GATE exam, the admissions are done. So these are exams that can be used, that people can appear in for applying for the course. So these are things that are usually not very well known. Even I did not know about CogJet until my last semester in undergraduate. Then I came to know, and that too I was just scrolling. I was just scrolling and looking for opportunities, and I just accidentally came across CogJet. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even known, because there is just no platform. Where should I know about this? So this is something which is very problematic, and there will be millions other like me, or hundreds of, not millions, hundreds and thousands of people like me who would want to get into some kind of a transdisciplinary or interdisciplinary field, and they might not know about it. So by creating some sort of an active society which goes out on social media also to popularize and make more people known about the discipline of cognitive science, by doing this kind of thing we will involve more people, we'll have a greater outreach, and this way we can also connect with those who are already working in the field of cognitive science, or we can invite speakers and thinkers from this field so that we can know more about what more is there to do in this field, what avenues we can explore, what job opportunities are available. So these objectives in mind, of course, not everything can be done at once. We have to take it one step at a time. But yes, slowly by slowly, we hope to create some sort of impetus by which we can involve more people and then move forward towards making a more towards achieving this goal of transdisciplinarity more. So in all, the goal is to create an active, self-sustainable cognitive science ecosystem where people are actively working towards contributing and expanding the field. Now over to you, Harshit.
First of all, I would like to ask others to maybe ask questions or anything you want to clear from Nitika's part of presentation, because it was about why we exactly need ACSs, right? So these were the objectives that we need to do, and that's the 6 reasons of why we need those things. So I would like to ask you guys if anyone has any questions or query or anything to add or omit, or any part if you were not clear about. So I would first like to clear that.
So the representation and popularization, how are you guys planning to do it? Like, are you guys going to create a common Instagram handle or Facebook page or a blog page, something like that?
So to answer that, like we what Nitika told you about is why we need an organization like this. What I am going to tell you is how we are going to do it, and what, like, not just we, it's like all of your ideas or everyone who fill that form. So we inculcated all the ideas and we added our own to and structured it in a way so that it can be presented to all of you, and uh, so it can, what I will be presenting it kind of a roadmap. So where first I'll tell you the events which would be happening, which would be we doing in this organization, through this organization, and what can be done further, and how we can start and how we can grow, and those kind of things. What Nitika currently talked about is why we need this. So what I'm going to tell is how we are going to do it. Okay. So I will be answering your question during my part only. So
Okay.
uh, so what we have done is, like, by the ideas of all of you, thanks to all of you and everyone who filled that form, we got a lot, humongous amount of ideas, and it took a lot of time to structure these into these terms. So what we have done is, like, to divide it into three parts, like the what the major events can happen, which need a lot of time and not a lot of work to do, pre work basically. Sorry, pre event work that needs to be happen are the annual and biannual events, which you can see in the screen right now. And there are two more criteria which we have created, which are the weekly and monthly, which will, yeah, I will be talking about later. And then the most important part will come, which is the website and the promotional, which the Vishakha was asking about. So that I will be covering in the last section of this. So firstly, let's start with events. When within events, there are the first kind, which are the major events that we may just put that only slide, like just remain on that slide only. Annual, so the annual events, or it can either happen either happen biannually or annually. Personally, I would prefer it annually because it would be more grand, and the symposium and presentation or hackathons or colloquium, that all the words that you're seeing in the screen right now, these are the major terms major terms you can come up and say, like, hey, we are organizing this unquote quote unquote symposium, and we are going to have all the events like webinars, workshops, presentations from startups and different institutes and all kinds of things. So it would be a major event for our organization, and that the whole, it would cover every objective, and it would include all the events within the monthly and weekly too. So it would be a complete sort of like a college fest, you can say. So yeah, we would try to include everything and every aspect to cover the objectives within within the annual event. So as you can see, this is not only this is not exclusive to just have these things. It is pretty much you can have any sort of event which is related to cognitive science, and we can brainstorm more on what we can do exactly in this annual event. So the next thing is, are the next type, the criteria of events are the monthly and weekly. So you can change the slide. Yeah. So these are the more frequent events that are going to happen. So first, let's say why. So let me just talk about why would be doing monthly, weekly research and leisure types of events. So the month, so the, like, the organization need to be little bit active. So that's why, but we can we cannot do every day just have humongous events. So we kind of diluted them into from annual to monthly to weekly to leisure activities. So in leisure activities, I mean, it would be up to the people or students or anyone who would like to see movies related to cognitive science, like waking up, Waking Us, sorry, and the movie like Paprika or Blade Runner or Matrix. So these kinds of movies which are kind of related to cognitive science, we can kind of see and just enjoy, because that's also part of learning. Like, so, and we can have treasure hunts, gaming night and coding night. Like if somebody is interested in, for say, like I'm pretty interested in League of Legends, so we can have that kind of stuff. So okay, so to the more important part, the monthly. In monthly, we would be having it would be kind of like a midway between the more regular sessions, like the weekly sessions, and between the regular sessions and the annual event. So in this, we would be try to have a newsletter, and like producing a newsletter, like what we did in the whole month. And if it's possible to have some competitions, we can do that. And if it's possible to prepare some talks within from our organization, or from or ask some other institutes or professors or startups to give a talk about something, we can do that and have presentations. And we can conduct workshops and all that kind of stuff within teaching, outreach, and employment and all that stuff. I think that would be in the next slide, so you can go to the next. Yeah, so I kind of briefly already talked about the bullet points that are mentioned, like newsletter, competitions, talks, presentation, teaching. mm, and presentation within us also can be a topic. And there was a very unique idea from someone, like the 1 hour challenges for collating and presenting a unique view on the topic. So it could happen, like I think it would be very useful for having some intuitive ideas regarding a certain topic. Like we would be just brainstorming for 1 hour for that particular topic. And then there is one-on-one guidance that can happen. If someone is volunteering to give guidance to people, I think personally I feel like giving guidance to people. When I talk to my juniors and they ask me about cognitive science, it kind of helps me too when I'm guiding someone through the paper of CogJet. So it works both ways, right? So, and I think the why part already Nitika covered heavily and clearly, I would say. So the outreach program, why it is important for high school and undergraduate, and why the outreach for career scope awareness is important, I think it's pretty much clear for us. But if I have to say, like uh, if high school undergraduate people won't know about it, it would be just a small bunch of bubble would create, and we would be fixed in that bubble, and nobody would be able to put like very new and creative ideas. And creativity comes from a bunch of people who have no idea about what's cognitive science, and also from one other side of it, which is who knows about cognitive science from the start. So to have that sort of a mixed batch. So that's why. And and also the career scope awareness, it needs to happen on a monthly basis, so people have more understanding of what they want to do. If I'll ask all of you right now, like what you want to do, some of you might be say, hey, don't ask me that question, it's giving me already existential crisis. So that's I guess the employment and research thing should be going. So then to the more frequent events, which are the weekly part. So moving on to the next slide. Yeah, so it's divided into two things. I'll make that clear. Weekly events are the more general events, and the research interests are more narrowed down according to your research interest group. So how we are going to do this of the research interest group is we are going to make another form, and hopefully more people would fill it this time when we create a website, which I will be talking about just after this. So what the agenda of the research interest group would be, to have more concrete idea about that particular research topic. For example, if I say for my own topic, neuroaesthetics, like I saw only like two people more that wrote in the sheet like I'm interested in that. So it gave me at least some even like it's something better than nothing. So that kind of thing. So at least it gave me some kind of pleasure कि चलो दो लोग हैं और दो who are interested in this and we can have that kind of discussion, and those research interest groups can work independently of the organization, can have their sessions on their own, because they don't need to be in the weekly general events for say, and they can create their own, like you have your own freedom to work on collaboration that Nitika talked about, and the collaboration would happen within the research interest group. Not everyone would be interested in the general part of the cognitive science. People want to do their own thing, so why not? So if someone is interested in AI ethics, if someone is interested in cognitive modeling, they can create their own research interest group within the students and PhDs, and they can have their own talks about it and go on doing all the things that are mentioned in these bullet points, but not exclusively these are the only thing that they can do. They can do any sort of thing they want according to their own research interest. So so in both cases, the event would be same for the weekly events, like the paper discussions, brainstorming, debates, collaborated research related activities, replication of some studies, developing our own methods. Like this, what you're seeing is like collaborated research activities would create you to ask like, can we replicate some study? Would it be possible? And then we can ask ourselves, can we develop our own methods in practical events? So it would act like a roadmap within these bullet points, right? So we can have these problem solving question, exploring real life application. So it would help everyone to kind of get a more idea about what should be doing after this degree, right? Not just be unemployed and say and try to have a socialist regime and say, hey, I want universal income. No, we can't do that. So we need some jobs. So yeah, so that we need to figure out within these weekly events and research interest group. So to the next slide, I think it's the leisure one. We can skip this. So to the main part, which is the first and foremost, and currently what we need this thing to start as soon as possible so we can have the events. So it's kind of divided in just my mind, so I'll just read it out to you, like how is it designed. So the first thing what we should be doing according to us is having the first 4 points to be included in the website, which is the description or for example like a profile, you say, for each of the student or PhD candidate to have their own like introduction and what are their research interests and what are they currently doing, uh, and if they want they can feature their small projects or assignments they did in college, so that people can reach out to each other. And the discussion same goes for the discussion forums that I talked about, right in the previous slides about the research interest groups. So discussion forums can act in a similar way, having those separate research interests and to have those constructive interactions within that website. So, or you can move to Discord. We can have our own Discord channel as well. Like I think we currently also have ACSS Discord channel. So we can kind of structure it well and work on it and have a sort of mix of a website and a Discord channel and have constructive discussions and everything. And then, so this was the first part, creating a profile, making similar groups interests. So the similar interest people can reach out to each other. So there won't be a vague idea like currently in my institute, no one has the same interest as me. So it makes me kind of anxious and like where I am right now. So that makes me wonder if the CBCS one person that had the interest of neuroaesthetics or the one person IIT Kanpur that had that interest, so I can reach them out more easily with the help of this website, and even if there would be platforms with Instagram and Facebook, we can create the just the social media part of it, and where we can market ourselves by advertising in those Instagram and Facebook channels to go to our website, and you can have all the idea you want to know about what is cognitive science and why we need it and why are we popularizing it, and all the 6 objectives that Nitika talked about can be covered in that area. So the next part is the library or a database. and it would be providing you links for all the institutes, papers, books, journals. Like we can just give you PDFs because that would be illegal. We would be the next sky up to follow the legal battles, and we don't have that much of money. If we had that kind of money, won't we would be studying in UPenn or something, right? So why would we be studying here? So anyway, so to have research like all the databases of not just the books and papers, but also the research groups and the available internships. Like you have for internships, you have the what's the name? Like Open Neuro is for website. Sorry, for database, but there's Cognitive Atlas, and there's one I'm forgetting the name. Anyway, I'll send the link if you guys want. So uh, that place uh, gives some idea of having like employers put their profiles, like if they what kind of people they are searching for, and then you can fill the form and you can get there. Like it's not for cognitive science, but it's for neuroscience mostly, and for artificial intelligence. You can see on that site and people can get some idea about it. So we can get a more meta database of that, of those particular sites for internship update, job updates, and a meta database for all the databases. Like there is a meta database for just the auditory studies that are happened, and the auditory data that is available, the audio database that is available like the again I'm forgetting the name. I'll put all the links if you guys want. So that's what the e-library is all about. So, and the next part is again, which I talked about already, like the advertisements, like, and making our organization or association or whatever you want to call it to be a bigger, to make it a for as a bigger picture, to people can see like what is cognitive and how can they see it. So people can put, we can have podcasts like similar to what NID Batein is like in I don't know if you guys know, there's two discipline, there are two like I was preparing initially for NID, not for CogJet. So there's a discipline called new media design, which is also transdisciplinary, and there's not much difference between cognitive science and new media design if you know about both of those disciplines, right? I was preparing for that, so I can tell you about that. So in new media design, we kind of work in all the four areas of humanities, social science, design. Sorry about, I'm mixing up words because I've been talking for a long period. So yeah, so if someone have any questions regarding new media design, they can come up to me. And similarly, like we can bring people from different disciplines, not only by just cognitive science, right? We can bring people from linguistics, we can bring people from anthropology, psychology, because that is important as well, because the people that are doing that are also interested in cognitive science. For example, you can see the example of my brother. He's trying to come into uh, okay, so sorry. So that part. So he's also interested in the cognitive linguistics and psycholinguistics and music cognition, and he wants to do a PhD in that. So we should also invite within this website of profiles having more not only just cognitive scientists have interests in, for example, AI ethics or cognitive modeling or cognitive neuroscience or computation neuroscience, right? The people who are doing masters in electrical or computer science can also go into do a PhD in that. All our professors did that. So why only stick to only cognitive science people? We can have a website of profiles of all the people that are interested in these areas, and they can have their name, and we can reach out to them. And that's the agenda of the podcast as well. We can invite speakers relative to those topics, and anyone you want, and have a weekly podcast or blogs and journal club and YouTube channel. Like there is IIT Kanpur mein Sanya, there is and there is Siddharth in our IIT Delhi. So there are already two YouTube channels going on. So why don't we create a more uh, more YouTube channel where everyone can put their ideas, and we can bring speakers like IIT Bombay does, and a podcast for how to prepare CogJet as well. In the seed. CET is an examination for design again. So they have their own podcast just to give students an idea of how to prepare for it. So we can also do that, and we can also put courses for Udemy or anything like how to prepare for college. That gives more popular, but that helps people to prepare for it, because people would be like, यार मुझे कोई idea नहीं है इसके बारे में, मैं क्यों पढूं इसके लिए, मैं I would just do from gate. So, matlab, just to give them idea, we can have podcasts and courses and all that kind of things. And again, these kind of things would help to popularize and represent and help in the representation. And then for a more bigger picture, we can even ask the people across our borders to collaborate with us. And I think that the website is the first and foremost thing. I am restating what I said in the earlier part. So this should what we should be starting with, to have a website, because to get more people involved, the first thing is we should have something in the product, right? We can just sell a product without making it. So we should first create something to have the events going on. And for that to happen, we first need to create a website where people can have their profiles and have a database and an active Discord channel, and maybe start with podcast, and we can later on start with a YouTube channel or blogs if someone want to write. And they're like, these are not just these inclusive, this is not just an exhaustive list. Any more things you can add and omit, and whatever you want to do, we can do in that thing. So this is what the roadmap we discussed, and this is how we think we should go with the whole organization. So baby steps, we are taking baby steps basically, from building a website, and then to the podcast and YouTube channel, then to have Instagram, Facebook channels, and then to have like events, start having events like weekly and monthly. And then, hey, we can say in 2023 we will be having a symposium. Come on, guys, make a hackathon, make it possible. So yeah, thanks for all of that, and for the team, I think. And thanks for listening, I guess. Also, like, I've been talking for a really long time, so all the things that I mentioned, now you can ask any questions, or you want to add anything, or if you want to say or just I don't know, like any ideas you have, or we can discuss about what should be the name of the organization, or it can happen later on. The names keeps on changing, that's not an issue. From MSN it went to Microsoft, so why वो तो होता रहता है. So any, that's it from my side.
Really nice presentation.
Yeah, it will be conducted by CBCS and IIT Delhi. So
Yeah.
like,
Sorry,
anyone
I was
wants to say
speaking
anything?
and I was on mute, so I'm sorry. Yeah. How long did it take you guys to like come up with all these things?
We are not the ones who came up with it. It's all of you, like every one of you and whoever filled that form came up with it. Like we just structured it well, so like uh, uh, so we can have a more clear idea about it, and we are really interested to build this whole like help you guys. I mean, you guys started it, not we. So we just were really interested from the first month of our course to have some sort of a idea, like it because it is becoming really vague, just studying from my room and going about it. So why not create an organization and work together and collaborate together among the all 4 or 5 institutes that are there. Not just 4 or 5, even there is an institute in Agra, and there's an institute in there's Amrita University, and even IIT Madras is starting up with something, and there's a PhD, there's cognitive neuroscience group in ISC. So there are lot of other institutes as well that we can collaborate, like the students we can collaborate, not with the institutes. So uh, Yeah, I mean, I would like to know any queries you guys have or regarding the roadmap especially. So, and I think the objective part, why we need the organization, Nitika covered it pretty well and very much pretty detailed. So I don't think we would be having questions regarding that. So just to have more idea on the roadmap and how we should start working on it, that I think should be the main agenda for right now, and we can start discussing on it.